Welcome back to our series on concrete and stone cutting. And this particular saw is usually what we call it is a target stone tile saw. The use of this saw is just like you would use a table saw for wood. Well, this is your answer for concrete and tile. It's a lot easier for tile than the scratch and break, and it'll give you a much nicer surface. It also allows you to skim and to cut notches out and do some things that you can't do with maybe a scratch and break tile cutter for tile. Now, we've left this saw in this position to start, just so you can see a couple of important points. These trays on the or stands on the bottom here, these fold up, and of course this all is rigid where your saw is in your stand. But what happens is these don't get in the right position. When you put these stands which collapse, you've got to fold it out and make sure that you get the saw base into this stand properly. It's a U shape, so it can go in and out, but when you get some help, or if you have to do it by yourself, make sure you get this stand into the stand properly, both front and back. I've seen situations where people aren't careful. They have it up on top, and a little vibration, the thing moves and it falls off. And once it falls off and you hit your blade and your blade's not running true or it's bent, you won't be doing any cutting. So prime importance to protect your blade. Also remember that this motor is a 1.5 horsepower motor. It's heavy. It's top heavy when it's this high. So when you load it, unload it, you hold it from the front and the back, but put this against a side of your vehicle, whether it be a pickup or in your SUV or van, so that it can't flip over and tip back. If it tips back again and gets hit in the blade, then again it gets bent or chipped and you're not going to be doing any cutting. So a lot of care should be taken the way this is transported and the way this is initially assembled. Now, once you've got that part assembled, you're going to put your stand in. Your stands, in some cases, have a front and a back to them, so be aware of that if they're labeled. They have a plug in them for the water, to drain the water, because you're going to fill this tray with water. So you'll put this in. Be careful not to hit your blade again. Slide it in, and just like that, it'll lock underneath here, and there's some little stops on the side to hold your tray on this side so it's rigid. And you can pull this tray out or push it back in. But sometimes when you have it out, you need it out when you're doing a big piece of tile. This one's a 24-inch saw, so it allows you to pull it out and get a bigger piece of tile on. Now you'll put your plug in, and you'll fill this tray with water up to the bottom of the rails. Okay, now this pump, very close to an aquarium pump idea. All right, you'll tuck this pump in the back area here. The plug will get plugged into the auxiliary that's on the side of the motor. And your hose, where the water is dispensed from the pump, will go on either side of the blade. And this is going to keep your blade cool and allow it to cut easier as well. Some blades have to be wet to cut properly, as well as some blades are dry. But in this particular case, we're going to be wet. The water is going to pump out of the tray over your blade back into the tray, and it's going to have that cycle. And once it gets fairly dirty or full of a lot of debris, of course, you can empty it, put fresh water in, and go again, just so that you're not collecting a lot of debris in your pump. Now, sometimes that does get collected in your pump. Don't forget some of the little shavings from tile or from interlocking stone could get past the filter, and they could get lodged in where the impeller is. And this can happen even when you first put it together, and all of a sudden it doesn't pump. Well, it could have been all blown out, but there could have been a dry piece somewhere inside that pump that fell down in by the impeller. So just simply plug it in, take a small little screwdriver, help the impeller out, give it a little turn, and you'll find it'll spin usually right away. And no need to run around and try to get another pump or anything. It can be fixed 90% of the time fairly easily. And then just snap on your screen back on, and you're ready to go again. Some of these screw on and some of them snap on. Okay, and that'll be back into here. Now your tray, this here tray is for a 24-inch tile. It's got an extension on the tray as well. just to give it to some stability for when you're cutting. And you'll see the rollers on the bottom. This has the 4 of them and the 2 plastic rollers. And make sure you line them up and put them onto your rails so that it rolls real easily. Okay, and that's the way it should roll, nice and easy. This one has an extension, so it comes off the tray a bit. You can pull your tray right out like it is, and the tray even goes a little farther, just to give you some more room for bigger tile. And then when you put your tile or your stone on, it can go against this back shoulder and give you some, so that you can feed it slowly right underneath the blade for your cut. And just make sure your blade just goes, say, a little 1/8 of an inch below the surface of the tray. You don't need to have it right down the bottom if it's your transport, or say you did tumble your motor end and didn't hurt the blade, but it's now all of a sudden it's cutting down into the tray in the bottom. You'll have to loosen this knob off. There's some screws underneath the motor, which will have to be loosened off because there's a shaft there, and that way you can pull the blade back up so that you're not cutting into and through the tray. Now, I just had a couple of different blades here I wanted to show you, because this particular one is a little different tile blade. This would be kind of a standard tile blade. A lot of different tile out there, a lot of different makes. Some blades cut really good in some tile. Sometimes you're going to get those tile or little pieces on mesh, and some pieces are metal, some are glass, some are ceramic. Very tough to have a blade that's going to cut all of them when you're trying to cut those kind of backsplash accent tiles. So you have to find we have to find the best, or the one that'll do the best in all of them. Some may cut a little better than others, but don't get discouraged. Some may cut quicker or slower if you're into those mesh type of splashbacks. This would be a type of blade, what we call a serrated blade, diamond blade again, and this is a 10-inch diameter blade, and this is the kind of blade you use for stone. So not necessarily one blade does all. There's a lot of different styles, a lot of different qualities, but at least make sure you get the proper blade when you go and you're using one of these saws. The proper one for tile or the proper one for stone. So this will make your job a lot easier. It'll certainly do that professional look when you're trying to make some patterns, maybe herringbones or different type of styles. When you're trying to cut notches out, you can cut a whole lot of little slits and break them off to, say, go around a pipe in the floor. Maybe if it's in a bathroom, you're trying to get around the toilet flange. You can slice, you can shave off. You've got a lot of control over what you're going to do with your tiles, and how thin you can cut the tile really depends on the tile. Some will cut very thin pieces, no problem, and others they'll break. But that really kind of depends on the quality of tile that you purchase. So this is a good tool to get familiar with when you have those tile jobs. You want to tackle them yourself. You want to do an interlocking stone job. This would be the good item to have to cut your stone, certainly if you do it for the first time. So keep in touch, and we'll see you again, and don't forget to subscribe.